Boris has now absolutely found his place in history, and not in the way one would have thought. Some years ago, we would have thought that Boris was a Hans Brinker. I was brought up in Spalding in Lincolnshire, on the fens with all the dikes crisscrossing the area of reclaimed land. And I remember being told as a small boy in school the story of Hans Brinker. He's the little boy in the Netherlands who saw water dripping out of a dike, and he put his finger in the hole, and he saved the country really from a flood, the water from the sea coming back into the reclaimed land and flooding the country. Hans Brinker, the boy with his finger in the dike. Well, Boris is not a boy with his finger in the dike. That's how he hoped to go down in history. The boy who saw what was right, did what was right, and stubbornly clung on against all the odds, getting Brexit done. No, Brexit's a mess. And Boris goes down as the first Prime Minister to break the law in office, as the first Prime Minister to be forced out of the Commons in Britain. He can say that he walked off in a huff first, if he wishes. He can say that others followed herd immunity, but the facts are clear: he left in disgrace. When Churchill fell after the Dardanelles campaign, after Gallipoli, he went on to France and he enlisted with the troops. He did reparation, redemption, rehabilitation, tricolon. Not so Boris. He went off to stuff hay in the attic and buy a mansion, a pad fit for a prince. I suppose he could always give it to Prince Andrew if he needed it in time. He's fled the Commons rather than answer for his offence, and this is just one of many deceits, sleights of hand that he's played. He cannot call his cunning or his he cannot call this cunning. He cannot call this a success. He cannot call this an achievement, because he's been caught out, just as he was caught out and sacked when he was a journalist, sacked and lying at the dispatch box as a Prime Minister. And he cannot really call the 7 MPs in the Privileges Committee biased. 4 of them were from his own party, even if he was told to be wary of one of them, Bernard Jenkin, a fervent Brexiteer, but not a friend of Boris. Charles Walker, another one, also a Tory on the committee, not afraid to stand up against authority publicly. He branded Liz Truss an absolute disgrace. Well, of course she is. Alan Dorrans, an SNP member, former police officer. Alberto Costa, another Tory and a 2005 entrant, a lawyer. Andy Carter, a Conservative from 2019. Of course, there was also Yvonne Farage, a former shadow minister from Labour. But the Labour presence on the Privileges Committee was modest. And plans for the future. Well, Doris's seat is being eyed, not necessarily as an immediate by-election victory for Boris. Some concede it will be gone. It will be lost. Even with a 24,000 majority, it will be gone. But at the next election, the Conservative Association will be looking to take it back with a big name, and then Boris will step in. So rather than being sacked by Partygate, Boris's overall overarching scheme of this part of his autobiography is that he's resigning against the threat of, quote, a rigged parliamentary process. That echoes Trump, doesn't it? It's not original. It's not and it's a bit late. It's a bit late in the day. It is, however, Churchillian. In what manner? Well, the whole manoeuvre of swapping seats is Churchillian. But Churchill didn't just swap seats, he also swapped parties. So I think the more Boris reflects on this situation that he's got himself into, and he should have gone earlier. If he wanted to control the narrative, he should have gone a year ago. The whole manoeuvre, I think he should reflect, is something that should lead him to join Farage or somebody in a new party. And he and Farage probably will be the only ones to actually get seats. But he'll still be in the party. He'll still be in the Parliament, and he can still do his bit of damage and his bit of oratory and so on. I think he's heading for an Enoch Powell style final chapter. I don't think he's heading for a blaze of glory at all. He's going to fizzle out, and people will eventually think of him as the old man who probably achieved something, entertaining old man. That's his legacy. And so the options offered a return to his old seat at Henley, to take the seat vacated by Nadine Dorries, to set up a new party. But all of this assumes that he's still a winner, and I'm not so sure he is. I'm not so sure even in the party he's considered a winner. Think of it. He led only 22 MPs to vote against the Northern Ireland deal. A magician who has lost his touch. A liar who's been called out one time too often. A little boy whose finger got stuck in the dike. Rather than helping, he had to receive first aid. No. Boris Johnson is not in any way a Hans Brinker. Hans Brinker. He's not in any way a Hans Brinker. He's a silly boy.